Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest webcast for Digital Badge Academy. We have a pretty unique guest with us today. We're going to let David Leeser introduce him. So, David, why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest and kick us off here?
I first met Josh several years ago, and I just felt like we just had such a camaraderie because you're using these digital credentials in a way that most people don't even think about how you can use them to solve real world problems. Josh has an EDD in this subject. He has a massive following in on YouTube and in other areas. And I think it's worth your while to learn from Josh on what he is doing to really make social change using these emerging technologies.
I have a question for you, Josh, or actually a topic to bring up. It probably is a better way to say it. I heard you have a way of creating some interesting, maybe controversy, for lack of a better word, on stage, and that recently there was a video that came out showing you burning your degree or something along those lines. Can you elaborate on this?
Well, first of all, it's an honor to meet you, Jim. I know that you're an innovator in the field across enterprise solutions with digital badges. Really amazing stuff that you and David Leeser did over there at IBM, which actually partially inspired me, and has been a great way to explain the power and the use cases, the multiple use cases of digital credentials. So it's great to actually meet you here. I'm in New York City. I'm in Manhattan. So I was a couple of weeks ago. I met David, got to see him in Florida. So that was nice. And Denise, and she's doing amazing things with My Inner Genius, which is just an amazing solution. Especially if you have a background in education solutions. So I want to promote that a little bit. But yeah, you can see that I'm in my friend's place here, but this is a perfect place to talk about crypto. And because it's a younger generation, and they want to have more playfulness, they want to have more ideas, and I want to bring this into digital badges as well. But the fact is that I come to this space looking at solutions for the student debt crisis, which is $2 trillion, and 46 million Americans with an average of $38,000. So it's a terrible crisis, and of course, people are split on how to do it. I've had a lot of experience with that, having student debt myself. And relieving some of it with crypto, but not all of it. And then, yeah, I got tired of it. Because NFTs, and I believe NFTs could be a solution to micro credentials for the informal economy. Micro credentials or digital badges are a solution to a lot of the credentialing issues, and not only that, assessment issues and motivation issues that are happening in education, and particularly higher education. And it's insane to me that people aren't using digital badges more and broader. But when I got into it and looked at how NFTs could be digital badges, I realized that we could finance them. We could finance education through them. And why did I burn my doctorate? I ripped it apart and burned it on stage with a paper certificate to show that the paper certificate is useless. First of all, it's owned. And it's on YouTube. Here I am after explaining that there's 20 million informal teachers in Africa. I showed a picture of a woman who was in Warsaw, Poland. She's 24 years old. She builds custom motorcycles based on crypto design. So she has a Bitcoin and Ethereum different motorcycles. She has no qualifications. She did no education, but she builds at an expert level motorcycles, showing that there's a lot of skills that are not recognized. But yet I got a doctorate from the top university of the world. I went to Cambridge. I've studied at Harvard and all these other universities, and I got lucky. But typically, these institutions are elitist, and they only have space for the elite. And what this is doing is creating a false positive. It's a lie. It's an illusion that these degrees and these qualifications are somehow preparing you for the real world, and that that the assessments are all valid, and that the students are actually have this education and have these capabilities and skills. But it's not true. As you know, the real skills are coming from experience of doing things, of receiving these micro qualifications. And it's just I burned it because out of protest to student debt. It's destroying families. People can't invest in a home. People can't get change careers because they're saddled with student debt. There's a million defaults a year, and it's going to be 30%, which is, let me tell you something, $600 billion, $600 billion in student loan defaults. And I find that crazy for people that are trying to get an education and improve their lives. And I believe actually digital credentials are a way to solve at least some of this problem. There it goes. Yeah. Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, no, this is really true. Like, so you touched on so many different interesting things there. One of
Oh,
them
sorry,
was,
it was quite a long, long
well, no,
monologue.
no, but I mean, one of them is, recognition for prior learning, for example, or
Yeah,
learning outside of a traditional way. We never seem to capture that, and it does require assessment, and it requires a way to capture that. But then you also touched on this whole idea of how do you pay for these things too? If you want to, provide an incentive. So there's the one is the capturing the information, and then the other one is the being recognized and being rewarded for it. So could you just in a linear way maybe describe how you think this could work for somebody to be able to say, how do we start to use these technologies together?
yeah, great. Well, you're going to like this. At first, I said I had the idea. Actually, God gave me the idea. I believe that said add finance to the certificate. So, and when you think about that at a microfinance level, which was what you can do with cryptocurrencies because the transaction fees are minimal, less than a penny on Polygon blockchain, for example, which is what I'm using and what Nike and all these other people. So basically, a digital badge can include not only all that metadata about the achievement and award, but if you use a semi-fungible token, which is a technology, you can also add digital assets or digitized assets into that. So when the earner receives the paper certificate or the NFT in my case, or the digital badge, they also in their wallet they get a bunch of tokens that can then be traded for cash. Now that's the system, and I thought, oh well, this will help all the people in student debt because you can say you can let you take out a loan, and then as you're receiving digital badges, you can pay down the principal on your loan if those badges have currency. For example, your parents put it in there. And this also is a great thing to support merit-based education, people actually getting to that point. And then I said, well, 50 to 75% of people don't finish their degree. And then they're still saddled with all that debt. But if they're at each step actually paying some of it off, then their burden won't be so severe. So I thought of it in these terms that, hey, digital badges can actually, when they're financed, actually pay for a lot of education, but they can, I realized two things. One, the problem is much, much bigger with student debt.
But it's kind of like a micro scholarship in a way, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of like it's thinking about how do we solve this debt crisis by saying I'm going to allot a scholarship, but then you have to complete this activity. Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's right. It's an award.
Hmm.
So, yeah. And so it does use some behaviorist elements.
Hmm.
And yeah, you get paid, you get rewarded with tokens for achieving something that has been created by a sponsor. So I broke it down to the very, very basic levels because one, you have an institutional person in the center that always has to issue the badges. That's a problem in the informal economy. That's a problem if I want to create a badge for my kid for 5 years from now, if or 2 years from now, or if I'm a grandma in India and I want to support my grandson who to get into the university. He's been working hard all the time. And I want to give him an award, but I only want to give him an award when he achieves that goal. So I wanted to be able to where the grandmother in India could actually take $1 of her $5 and give it to her grandson only if he gets into university and achieves that thing that she says, and to
Hmm.
where everybody could have that digital badge. But not only that, I've got it set up in a very basic sense so where the sponsor can see who gets that badge and when. And what that's going to do, and I'm working with UNESCO and the United Nations on this, United Nations related charities. That's going to enable funders and sponsors of education initiatives to see where their money goes. And I think that was a missing that's what I didn't see about the badges. I saw it in the basic sense, but badges actually create a mechanism of verification, a layer of verification of funding and financing education. And you didn't see that. You see, people didn't see that before, but my system is basically through the cryptocurrency enables that. That's great for future education. That's great for our kids. That's great for I know you've got a teenager. That's great to say, hey, I can make this. It's decentralized issuance. It doesn't require a centralized authority or institution. That's great. But what about the 46 million Americans in debt already? And that hit me on the head. I don't know. So I created collective tokenized bargaining, which is where we're going to take these same tokens and we're going to actually use them. We're going to invest them, then trade them out for cash, and then use them to negotiate, buy, and then erase the student debt of our token holders. And that's something, again, with the blockchain crypto communities, that's a new element in the way that we're doing, that people are doing business and going to do business in the future, because the younger generation, they want to be incentivized. They need to be incentivized. And also people are looking at problems much more holistically than they did before. So I think that the badges piece, and also what's the value of the badge? Let me go back to you guys. What's the value of a piece of paper, of a digital badge? It's like the gold star in school, and what the problem is, everybody gets a gold star. People get gold stars for different things, but I think we should actually put real value into the badges. It makes it more legitimate, and it also is more motivating. And then you can use that, just like we do with economics, to push people in different directions.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I think of, for instance, uh, uh, my wife's parents, buying savings bonds to set aside, every year for my son's birthday, to help pay for a college education kind of thing. So it's taking something like that, but bringing it forward and leveraging badging, where
Yeah.
you're literally attaching currency to ultimately what would be a digital badge that someone would be issued. So they have to actually go through the process of learning. They have to get through it successfully to unlock that currency to pay for that piece of their. So I'm also curious as to, uh, like for my wife and I, we did the whole Florida prepaid thing, where we put money aside every year to pay for some.
521, is it the 521 plan,
I
or?
think that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And to pay for our son's education, and that worked out well. We started really early on. But is this what you're talking about? Is this something that could be an alternative to something like that then?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it has been an alternative. I'll give you my story. I'll give you my personal story on this point. Why Bitcoin, and I'm not using Bitcoin, but because it's environmentally destructive. But I was given Bitcoin back in 2013 by a student of mine, because I help people. I'm a one of the world's leading experts in English language teaching for specific purposes, and I sometimes help people with publish their dissertation. So I helped a guy publish his dissertation through advanced writing, and he couldn't pay me. And I usually in those cases just say, hey, buy me lunch. But he said, hey, I'm going to give you this thing called Bitcoin. I said, yeah, thanks for this. Thanks for the computer code, but you still need to buy me lunch. Anyways, I took that. Long story short, I had a savings plan for my nephew, one of those 521 plans in Wisconsin. I put $5,000 in it, $5,000. At that time, the Bitcoin was worth about $800. I said, this is what I'm gonna do. You know what? It's computer code, blah, blah, blah. My nephew's gonna need a lot of money for his education. And that was 2013. And it was about a 8-year run before he would be. So now he's 21. So it was, about 5 years of savings potential through that program. I said, I'm going to put this Bitcoin on the side for him, because I don't care about this stuff. And I'm going to put this $5,000 and let's see what happens. And he'll get both of them. Guess what? Guess how much money he got from the 521 plan? About $6,000. So it went up about 20%. Guess how much money he was able to use for his education from that one Bitcoin? About $45,000. So he was able to pay for his tuition, his loans, everything for 2 years from one Bitcoin bet that I had made for him. And and he hasn't even cashed out that $5,000 or that $6,000 that's used in that 521 plan. And so when we have a big problem like student debt that is there's no way we can catch up with that student debt. Biden he made a big claim for 300 billion. 300 billion is not even close. There's 5 million new students every year. And 300 billion is not even close to 2 trillion. And you saw the kind of kickback and the kind of devastation that $300 billion would do to the economy as well. So parents like you need a long-term savings solution for their kids. They care about their kids. They want their kids to get higher education. They're concerned about this. I know people that are not going into retirement and try to put their kids through education. And then at the end of that education, you don't even know if they're going to have a job or a career. And this is why the micro-credential piece is essential, but also the crypto piece is essential. Micro-credential piece is essential because I don't know, micro-credential sounds kind of long. The badges or the qualifications, what you call this credential piece is very important because people are gaining different skills, various skills, and they might be able to apply those to different careers. A millennial generation has 9 different careers during their life. 1 degree isn't going to suffice. So just in that case alone, and also identify those informal skills. But when we talk about the student debt problem, when you talk about $150,000, $200,000 for a degree, I know a friend, they just had their kid graduate from Wellesley, some college in some really high-end college, $200,000. They went to study special education. They're going to become a special education teacher. If their parents couldn't pay that $200,000, there's no way that person in their entire life would be able to pay
that back.
Pay that back. And you know what? You want to talk? This is the government statistics is 12 years after graduation. White guys like us, we're the privileged class. There's only 30% of white males that pay off their student debt 12 years after graduation. For white females, it's less. I know we all think the women are the better with the money, but actually it's 26% of white females, so it's slightly less. Let's change that over to black. Let's talk about equity and let's talk about equality and diversity, equity, inclusion. Let's talk about all this stuff that's going on. Black people this is 12 years after graduation. So this is a 50% lucky enough or smart enough or capable enough to graduate, the 50%. 12 years after graduation, they owe more. Black people owe 18% more on the principal on their loan. So they owe more because the interest was too much for them to accrue. And so this is not a problem that can be solved in our economy, especially when you think over time. So you said we started early with our kid, right? We started early with our son. Now, what happens over time is the markets go up and down and the government debases the currency and things like that. So the dollar, inflation, all this stuff, that money is, and after 10 years, actually not going to be worth near as what you started with, even because of the way the economy works. Bitcoin solves that to some extent, but Bitcoin doesn't solve the problem. Bitcoin doesn't allow you to make digital badge structures on its system. It's just a financial tool, but you can use the same principles of limiting the money and ensuring that the market makers can take a bet on it. Now, what are they taking a bet on? Why is Bitcoin worth so much? Because people hold it. Because people hold it. They don't want to get rid of it. That's why it keeps going up. Because people say, I want that Bitcoin. In this case, I solve this problem with you. Yeah, with the parent. The parent that says, hey, I'm going to make this digital badge, but it's only going to be available once my son 7 years from now achieves this thing. And then they get the money. But the money, that whole 7 years, is in escrow. And by the way, this is a nonprofit organization. So the money, the cash, is actually backing the token asset. So the market makers are playing with it and might go up, might go down a little bit, but it'll probably go up. The likelihood of it going up 100 times is 1,000% more likely than your dollar doubling.
You know, this is really interesting because you talked about parents, but I also think about all the money that governments and workforce centers and other and colleges and all these other scholarships, all this money that is put out there. And I think about like the government puts out this money and a lot of it's a beauty contest. Whoever
Yeah,
has the best, most beautiful looking proposal gets
yeah.
the grant from the government. And imagine if you could use a program like this. Let's say you go into a state like Georgia, or you go into a country like Switzerland, or wherever it happens to be, and they say, you know what we need? We need more AI prompters. We need more data scientists. We need more nurses, whatever it happens to be. We're going to earmark that money for these particular credentials in that area. And that way the scholarship is directly tied to the actual achievement rather than this beauty contest that says, hey, we're going to give this school this money because they worked with this company to produce this pretty looking proposal.
100%. And you can do that with traditional badges. So your whatever badge systems you guys are working on, Credly could do this. Other people could do this in the traditional economy. But when it comes to the student debt, what you're talking about positioning. Yeah, sure. You say, oh, well, a philosophy department, they need more people to take philosophy degrees so we can incentivize that thing, or we need more nurses. That's exactly how behaviorism works. And I'm not a big behaviorist, okay? I mean, I studied multiple intelligences under Howard Gardner at Harvard, so I'm definitely against standardized testing and these kind of things in general. But behaviorism can work for these kind of things to move things. Now, when you talk about the student debt crisis of $2 trillion and a global crisis of 2 billion people not getting access to higher education or formal education, then you need to think about taking some risks on the finance and looking for alternative ways to finance this stuff. So we could create badge systems or even consult together on badge systems that work within the traditional economy. The only big issue is one, the value of the dollar, the dominance of the dollar, because there's other people besides Americans in the world, and the dollar doesn't work for them when it has huge implications, by the way. And then the other thing is the payments. Like if in Visa, I know I use my Visa card, they're taking 3.5%, but that's a small transaction or whatever. But if you're doing that a lot, it could add up a lot to these micro scholarships. So yeah, you're right. And for enterprise, think about it like this. Because I know Jim's a big enterprise guy. Bonuses, rewards. Instead of just giving a person, a Starbucks card or something like that, you could actually give them some money that was put aside by the government or by the company, the corporation bought tokens. They hold those tokens or they put those into a bonus program, and they don't do anything, and it ends up that by the time the employee gets the bonus, the token has gone up 3 times, and the corporation might have said, okay, we'll put $500 in here for this team for bonuses, and when the team actually gets the bonuses, it's worth $2,000 or it's worth $300. But anyways, you're incentivizing them with cash, and you're bringing them into the 21st century with Web3 because, by the way, this blockchain is a thing, and it's not going away.
Yeah, I'm also thinking too, we've talked about this approach in the context of someone that wants to have access to a higher education institution to get a degree or something like that. We see a lot of the trends and movement today toward alternative pathways to employment, right? That may completely bypass the higher education institution altogether through career academies or things that grow with Google, or there's IBM Skills Build, and there's lots of other programs that are out there. I would think that this could work in those contexts as well, right? Or am I wrong there?
Well, you're absolutely right. And as a matter of fact, it's specifically for those contexts. I believe that the higher education system, and I'm not anti-capitalism here, but I think that basically money has corrupted higher education. You've seen Columbia University. I'm right next door to Columbia University. The law school is literally 200 feet from me right now. They have been removed from the rankings because they were manipulating the information and the data on the rankings. That's Columbia University, you know, and they're letting students in to these universities. I was supposed to help on a hackathon. This, by the way, I'm wearing my Ethereum hackathon T-shirt. Only hackers, only proper hackers get this, guys. So I'm part of the I'm part of the rebel forces, just to let you know.
So the dots just connected for me then. So this is specifically to enable these alternative pathways, or at least the financing that comes with it.
Yeah, because again, my
Okay.
friend, there's only 2% of education that's actually formal. 98% of education is informal. And you know what? Nobody wants a degree anymore because they know that their career is going to change. They know it's going to cost them way too much money. And they know that a lot of the stuff that they're going to learn in the university is not applicable to those jobs and those and what employers need or want. That's exactly why these corporations like IBM, like Google, they're making their own academies. They're making their own stuff because
Certificates.
they can
Right.
control the quality. They know that they get a person from Stanford. I don't mean to harp on Columbia. Columbia is a great university in general, but I was supposed to help this girl with a hackathon. She's a third-year bachelor student from China. And listen, remember, I'm very careful with the English language, and I help people at every level with my private company, Synergetics Education, by the way. But she didn't have a single sentence that had correct English. And this is a third-year bachelor student at Columbia University. Now, what can I assume about her critical thinking? What can I assume about her practical skills when she needs to go out in the workforce and actually get a job at IBM or one of these other things? I see that she's got a great attitude. She wants to do a hackathon, but there was no leadership, no management, no ability, and limited communication skills, and digital badges, whether it's from my system or another system, can actually address some of this illusion that, and I don't mean to criticize higher education, but they set themselves up to fail. And I think with the finance piece, it's the nail in the coffin because nobody can afford what they're trying to sell. I'm a big believer in critical thinking and other academic skills and the academic social context that they get from university. But because I believe that vocational education and university education are two different things, and I've had both, luckily. But I think that it's gone too far. And just like David was saying, the applications are endless to micro credentials, but we need to accept that people have various lives, and there's no standard trajectory or pathway for learners, and we need to reject that. My opinion, we need to reject that thinking that assumes a standardized pathway, especially considering the amazing technologies that we can use to personalize and even hyper personalize experiences, just like the companies and corporations are doing in advertising and branding. They're hyper personalizing. We're way behind them in regards to education, and micro credentials can solve that. So super excited to that you guys even invited me here
Well,
to
yeah,
discuss this.
it's David and I have always been like-minded with respect to the possibilities
Mm,
for digital credentialing and badging, right? Most often it gets thought about in the context of something that just reflects skills, and most folks don't think too far beyond that. But I think the possibilities are nearly endless, and the only thing that gets in the way of finding new ways to use them is just creativity. How creative and critical thinking can you be? That's why this topic is just so fascinating, because it's something that I've never even thought of. So it's interesting to hear your thoughts on this, and you know some of the work that you're doing around it.
Yeah, I have a question. So, Josh, if there were people that wanted to get started, I'm just thinking, I just see the application, like you said, alternative credentials are growing, and you cannot go through a LinkedIn feed without seeing things about the STARS program, those or people that have some college and no degree, alternative pathways through, apprenticeships or workforce centers and
it's
other things
amazing.
like that. So let's say what would you say to people that maybe are start having a workforce center, or they have one of these alternative ways for people to get skills? How would they get started with something like this? Would they work with somebody like you, or how would they do this to say, you know what, I would like to start to create micro scholarships and incentive programs, and I want to tie it to performance through these digital credentials? Where would they go?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for that. Well, the project, the tokenization piece will launch at 15th of June. And it's going to be so simple, and it's a nonprofit organization, and it's actually going to be free. So what they will need to do, so it's actually a platform, a tool that you can use. But they will need to finance the projects themselves, or they will have to have the projects financed by third parties. And I'm going to show you guys something really, really cool. But let's just say that you want to create a badge system for your local children's hospital. Let's say you work as a volunteer and you want to create it for the other volunteers. Okay, so you can basically you can create this badge program as a sponsor, or you can apply for it if the person has already created it. If the person creates it, they can create. It's a very simple user interface to do it. But let's just imagine that you created it. I'll show you the interface in a second. But let's just say that you created this and you want to get it funded. So let's say your children's hospital award. Oh, well, we don't have any money to go into these bonus programs for the volunteers. And you say, oh man, well, you know what? Let me ask the internet. Let me ask the global community through Get Smart. And so basically, we'll put it up here on certain projects or nonprofit organization projects, and you can actually see the different projects that people have. And you say, oh, well, here's a Southern Medical Chesapeake, Virginia badge for the volunteers there. And I can read about it. And so this is what the person in the workforce center would do if they wanted to make something public. So this would be public awards. So if you want to create something for if this could work with any donation program, and people donate in fiat, they donate, and the nonprofit organizations holds the cash as to back the asset, and then we give the tokens to the people, and then they can do that. Then they can take the tokens, and so that's the public use case. But let's just say you want to create one for your own organization. You can create it for anything, and we're going to have basically a little basic training that walks you through it. But it's so simple. I had to make it so simple, David. I use an 8-year-old and an 80-year-old to test it. Okay. And when you think about it,
Unfortunately, those are the people that read the instructions. The people in the middle don't.
yeah, but nowadays with the way technology works, we have to make stuff super, super simple, simple as possible. And this is a huge challenge, because you think something's really, really simple, and then basically it's not. Let me see here. Okay, I'm going to show you so quickly in a crypto system, and this is one of the problems of the big onboarding to blockchain systems. So blockchain systems have a lot of benefits compared to their other system. The main one, ownership of your own data. You know, you hear about this TikTok. I don't know if you've heard that TikTok is keeping data on every single keystroke, every single movement, every single place. And they know, this is a Chinese company. They know where your daughter's going when she's not using TikTok. You know, they got all of that data. They're keeping all that, and it's owned by the Chinese government. This is crazy. I don't want the American government knowing that either, where my daughter's going, what she's doing, every single keystroke, much less the Chinese. So the big deal with blockchain is that it makes it private. It makes it, a way to control without these third parties, and you don't have Facebook. Okay, so if I'm on here, can you see this screen?
Yes.
Okay, so if you have, this is a sponsored dashboard, and you see it's just a login, but what that login did is it connected me to the blockchain. And now I'm in a much more powerful position on the internet. So I could create a badge, and basically I need a title, a number of tokens, which must be in my wallet, number of badges to create, award criteria, evidence, the sponsor name, the expiration date, the badge descriptions could be a description about your organization or whatever that for that workforce development program. They could make their own description, their own criteria, and then you could add a video link. That's what I think that could be a kind of inspiring thing. And you could set it for public or private. If it's public, then people can actually explore badges here. And so if you're looking for a badge, or if your kid that says, oh, well, I want to find, maybe somebody's going to sponsor something. So existing institutions, existing nonprofits can all create these tokenized badges, and then people can search for them, or you can make your own private one. And then when you create that, or if you go to if you have then the sponsor also will know who they awarded the badges to. So you can do these three things. You can create your own badge, you can sponsor an initiative. And if you create badges, it costs 9 tokens, which is about $2, and but that's for one badge series. So you can create 100 of the same badges for $2, or you can create 100 different badges for about $2 each. Where do those fees go? Those fees go into a student debt staking pool, where we then invest those, and then we take the return on that investment and we use it to cancel and erase the student debt of our token holders. So you might say, well, I'm getting these tokens, it's nice, it's fun, and I can trade it for a little bit of cash. But what we're doing at the same time with our tokens is we're staking them to then erase the student debt. And we got the best negotiators in the world. Herb Cohen is on our advisory board, which he's obviously the world's #1 negotiator, negotiated out the Iran hostages. So we're going to have the same guy who negotiated out the Iran hostages, got the American banks to be able to go into China to do business. He's going to be negotiating student debt on the behalf of all the students and all the parents and all the people that are part of our organization. So I believe in collective bargaining, and I think that collective bargaining is a way to do this. The decentralized issuance was a big issue because we have copyright issues. People can do, we have copyright issues. We have hate speech issues. We have all kinds of different issues that AI is going to help us with, and verification layers. So on a blockchain, basically, the key to the blockchain is that address. If this is Harvard University, that's only one address that can be Harvard University, and it cannot be changed. Nobody can change it. It's decentralized. Okay, on a centralized blockchain like IBM has, that information can be altered or changed because IBM owns it. Now, so I'm promoting decentralized solutions. Nobody owns it, and I'm not promoting Bitcoin because Bitcoin does use the environment, whereas other blockchains, almost all other blockchains, are using a proof of stake model, which uses 0 carbon or very close to 0, less than your email. And so generally, that was a very, very long demonstration, but thank you guys for giving me the time.
Oh, that's fascinating. The wheels are turning in my head. I had this moment there when you were demoing that, where I was thinking, from a digital badging standpoint, it's something that sits really, either in the education space or in the corporate space now. Obviously, David and I have so much experience with, but it literally could move the implementation of digital badging out into. I almost think about back in the early 80s when computing came into the household, right? And everybody ended up, led the whole thing with, now everybody can have a PC in their home. Now everybody could literally tap into the whole world of digital badging through this kind of use of badging, right? That's just what is kind of blowing my mind here, and what the potential of that can be. So,
well, the potential was already there, Jim, but I think people will start to do it when you include a financial element, and
Right.
that's I
And
think
that's the
that's
key piece.
I think
That's the key
that's
piece.
I think that's a key piece. So hopefully this is just one of many potential solutions where people say, hey, let's not just address the qualification system. Let's address the education finance issues that are prevalent across our societies, and giving people like you headaches thinking about where they're going to pay, how they're going to pay for their kids' education.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent.
All
Well,
right.
I think that's it. This has been a great presentation, Josh. And what we'll do is we'll link in the speaker notes to the to your site, and then we'll also see what we can do to promote your date coming up on June. Um, and good luck with this program, because, like you said, I think it's really needed now to expand the value of badges to this very important use case, which is the financial part of it.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
And there's two things, guys. Thank you. No, thank you, man. This is really a privilege and honor, because I know that everybody that's watching your show is like really connected and top level people. These aren't just random people watching your show. The other thing is that I think I can support you guys. I mean, there's two directions. One is obviously NFTs, blockchain, as a little part of your academy. I could come in as an external expert or something like that. You don't have to pay me anything, but that could add an extra element of, hey, desire for people to see how these kind of systems can be integrated or how they're used. And you say, oh, my students all want NFTs. And we say, well, NFTs can be digital badges, but only under certain circumstances, because again, you can sell and trade NFTs. It's not like a digital badge in a way. So there has to be certain features. And then the other thing is artificial intelligence, in the sense of identifying skills, qualifications, competencies, and then integrating that. I'll be doing that into my system, because again, it's way too open at the moment. And then, we could look at, hey, how to integrate these practical technologies and tools into a badge system. I know that the basics are enough for most people that are going to take your academy to get, but if anybody wants to take it to the higher level, I'm very much willing to support you at any time for that.
Thank you so much. Really
Awesome.
appreciate this.
Are you looking to launch a digital badging program or improve an existing one? Look no further than Digital Badge Academy. Our highly popular online masterclass will help you gain the skills and insights necessary to achieve success. Enroll now and start learning today.